Canon shooter tries. Fujifilm x100v.
All right, welcome back to the channel, everybody. Hopefully you're all having amazing creative days. And in this video, this Canon shooter is going to be trying out a Fuji camera for the first time. I've never shot Fuji before. It's my first time ever. So yeah, the X100V, there's a lot of cool things about this camera, things that really excite me. So if you're also a Canon shooter and you're interested in a Canon shooter's perspective on Fuji, or a Canon shooter trying Fuji for the first time, this video is for you. Stick around. All right, so I picked up the Fuji X100V and it came with this leather case. It's like a little leatherette case that you can put on the camera for protection. And it came with either the case for free or that little screw-on filter that makes it waterproof for free. And I'll talk about that in a second, but those filters you can find on eBay for next to nothing. So I took the $100 fake leather case, which is okay. I don't think it's worth $100, but anyway, let's talk about the Fuji. All right, here are the specs on the Fuji X100V. If you want to pause the video here and read over everything, go for it. I'm not going to spend too much time on the specs. The only thing I really want to point out is the fact that the lens has a leaf shutter, which is pretty amazing. If you know what a leaf shutter is, you're going to be excited by that. And the other thing is the lens is also an equivalent to a 35mm on a full frame camera. So if you buy this camera, just know that you'll be shooting with a 35mm, and this is a fixed lens, so it doesn't come off. So yep, that's it. Moving on to the next thing. All right, and there it is. That's the X100V, and that is a beautiful looking camera. I have to admit, that is a gorgeous camera. Canon, take notes, take notes. This is a very nice looking camera. Just want to let you guys know that I've had this camera here for about 8 months now. I bought it in August 2020. So I've had some time to play around with this camera, get used to it. I didn't want to be that Canon guy who tries out a new system and is like, oh, well, I'm just gonna give you my opinions on this camera and I've only used it for a week. But I've had 8 months with this thing to really get to know it. And you know how everyone says there's something special about Fuji, about the photos? It's true. It's true. I don't know how to explain it. I think their sensor is designed kind of differently. You know, a lot of the other camera sensors have a Bayer sensor, but the X-Trans sensor, the composition of the pixels, or I guess the light sensitive sensors on the sensor are arranged differently, and it feels a lot more organic. It really does feel like I guess when you look at the photos, it kind of looks like you're shooting film when you're not. There's just something, there's a certain essence about Fuji photos, which, you know, I didn't believe at first until I tried my first Fuji. And now, yeah, I believe it. There is something really unique about the way these X-Trans sensors process light and produce photos. So yeah, kudos to that. All right, take a look at some of the photos here I shot with the Fuji X100V. They're just, I really love them. I think there's something very special about the photos produced with this camera. And I'll be honest, when I first bought it, I was skeptical. I was like, yeah, you know, I'll buy it. If I don't like it, I'll return it, whatever, you know, we'll see what happens. And 8 months later, I'm still holding on to it because I really, really, really like it. The photos are fantastic. Plus, the big thing for me is the form factor. You can just shove it in a pocket and head out and go shoot stuff. And for me, the big thing is that I got tired of carrying around, here's an R5 by comparison. I got tired of like going to family events, like my sister's having kids, my brother's having kids, we're going to these family barbecues, family events and things. And pulling this out is just too big and cumbersome, and I didn't like that. And I didn't like the choices that Canon had on the market, the EOS M, the M50, the M6. They didn't excite me. So I said, you know what, let's go for this. And I gave it a try, and I'm super happy with it, really happy. And you know, if you're heading out to the park, or you're heading out with friends, going to a concert, walk on the beach, whatever you do, even if you're on a date with somebody and you want to bring this to capture some photos, it's not going to be like, oh, I have to bring my camera bag with me. It's just like, hey, you know what, I can put a strap on it, I can put it in my pocket, put it in the glove compartment of the car. Like, you don't have to worry too much with it. And that's the beauty of this X100V. And it's not a camera in someone's face. It's a lot of people, when I point this at them, they think, oh, cool, is that a retro camera? Is that a vintage camera? Is that film? I get that one a lot, actually. Is that a film camera? It's like, no, actually, but hey, if it makes you feel more comfortable. And speaking of comfort, like if you have, look at this is the 15 to 35 right here. So this is the 15 to 35 and this is the Fuji X100V. Like, take a look at that. Take a look at that. Now, if you point the Fuji at somebody to take a photo, they're not going to be that intimidated. You point this at somebody with an R5 at the back or R6, whatever, they're going to be like, whoa, is that a professional camera? And they seem to react differently. Whereas if you point this at somebody, they're just like, oh, okay, cool, he's taking a picture. Completely different experience. But it's not all roses with this camera. It does have some issues, and there is a bit of a learning curve, especially if you're coming from Canon, because Canon has that incredible autofocus. And this, all right, so let me give you a few of the negatives here with the camera. First negative, and this annoys the heck out of me. You hear that? Sony does this too, and I don't understand why. They've got these like jingly little metal bits hanging off the camera, and every time you move it, it makes noise, and it's so frustrating. I don't understand. Canon does it right. Why can't everyone just do it like Canon does? You know, have the camera loop built into the camera and then put the strap through it. Keep it simple and silent. Oh, that drives me bananas. Okay, so it's not a huge negative. That's just like a little opinion right there. But the big negative for me here is the autofocus, the continuous autofocus with this camera. When I first picked it up, you know, I charged up the battery, I perused through the manual, figured out some of the settings, and I went out to take some shots. And I came back to the studio, I looked at the photos, and I was like, what is this? What is this trash? What's going on? Nothing was sharp, especially if I was shooting something that was moving. It was just like, what? And then I took it again to a birthday party. I know I had my nephews running around there, you know, water guns, playing around and stuff like that. And I was using the autofocus continuous mode and tracking them, and the little green dots are on them, but the photos would be blurry. The focus would be behind them or in front of them or on the background. So the one knock against this camera is the autofocus continuous autofocus mode really is bad. I would stay away from it completely. You can't guarantee that you're going to get any quality shots with it. It's very hit and miss, so I would stay away from that. Fuji, you gotta up your game there. So what you have to do is go to single shot, and I set it to rear button focus. So I just focus, recompose, shoot, focus, recompose, shoot. And we gotta shoot with this camera like we did back in like, what, 2010 with the 5D series. So you gotta pick your focus point, focus, recompose, shoot. If things are moving around, I don't know, you're gonna have trouble. As long as people aren't moving towards you and away from you fast, you're okay. If they're moving laterally, it's all right. Once I figured that out about this camera, I really love the photos. I got some really fantastic stuff. So that's just a little bit of caution to you. If you pick this up, be careful. The continuous autofocus, not so good. In terms of the ergonomics, it's a little bit, there's a little like thumb piece you can pick up that attaches to the hot shoe, and it's supposed to give you a little more stability. I don't particularly mind the ergonomics. There's not much of a grip, but I do prefer the smaller form factor. It just means when you are shooting, you just have to hold it a little tighter. If this bump here was just a touch bigger, because I mean the lens comes out to this height anyway, so if this came out just a couple millimeters, I think that would be super helpful in terms of giving it just a better grip. That's it. Also, if you want to shoot 4K, I mean, I wouldn't really pick this up to shoot video anyway, but if you do shoot 4K, I think you're limited to 10 minutes. And whatever, I mean, if you want to shoot a 10-minute clip, there you go. Maybe you can get some stock footage, you know, which is fine. We're testing out the video here. Is it going? I don't know if it's focused on me or not. I'm trying to check the mirror. It looks like it is, but this is classic chrome 4K 24 out of the Fuji X100V, and we're using the onboard mics on the camera right now. So this is what it sounds like, and this is what it looks like, and hopefully it's kind of tracking me. But if I were you, I wouldn't pick up this camera for video because it's not a video camera. All right, so now we're gonna take a little walk around the camera, and I'm gonna tell you my thoughts on the outside of this camera, or about the outside. So we have, I think this is an aluminum body. It feels really nice, it feels robust. It feels like if you dropped it, it's not gonna fall and break into little pieces. I think the outside is all metal except for the battery door. The battery door, and it's also the memory card door, is plastic. But everything else, oh, see, I'm used to Canon where you close it and it stays closed. Here you have to clip it so it stays closed. The lens is nice and compact, which is a huge plus, and that's the big selling feature for me with this camera. And also the fact that it's a 35mm is also fantastic, because in my opinion, this is the most versatile focal length there is. Video about it there. And yeah, you can get close-up shots, like close-up headshots, you can get full body shots, and you can step back and get environmental portraits with this lens. So it's like 3 lenses in one, if I can take that liberty with it. But you've got the aperture ring here. It's got 2 little knobs on either side, so you can turn it easily, and that's super helpful. It's also got one wheel here and another one on the back, and the one on the back you can push in, so it's a button as well. In terms of the back, we got this screen. It's not fully articulating, it just goes like that. It just tilts upward, so that's good. But if you want to shoot some vertical shots, you're out of luck if you want to shoot vertical shots close to the ground. But I do appreciate that it has that at least. Button layout is decent. There isn't a lot of, there aren't a lot of buttons. You've got a couple of customizable buttons, including one right up here. I only wish this button was a little further inward, because if you're holding the camera, it kind of, you have to really reach to get to this button. So I would have preferred if these 2 buttons were a little closer to where the thumb rests. Dials on the top are Fujilicious. Listen. Oh yeah. I kind of enjoy the process of shooting with Fuji, because you have to sort of, okay, let me dial in the aperture, let me get the shutter speed. And for the ISO, you actually have to pop this little thing up and rotate it and drop it back down, which is kind of cool. And then you have your exposure compensation here. And the menu system on the Fuji is pretty intuitive. I tried the Sony a7 III for a little while, and it took me a little while to get to know the menu, but this is pretty intuitive. It's not too hard to figure out. So if you spend some time with it, you'll definitely get it. And of course, we have this little joystick. At first, I thought this joystick would be too small, especially after using an R5. I was like, yeah, that joystick's great. This is going to be so small, but actually, it's perfect. Works really well. Really happy with it. And another really cool thing about this camera is the fact that that viewfinder in there can be optical or electronic. So you can switch from EVF to OVF. And I thought that was really cool. And that is awesome. I really enjoyed the OVF, because it kind of reminded me of those disposable cameras from back in the day. And it kind of has that feel of a disposable camera. So, all right, so let's talk about weather sealing and the issues that exist around weather sealing. So this camera is completely weather sealed except for the front element. When you focus, that little element will protrude from the camera, coming back and forth. And of course, water gets in there and can cause problems. Now, this does take a 49mm filter thread. And if you can buy a 49mm filter, and if you put it on the proper way, it doesn't work because these threads are reversed. So you can turn the filter around backwards and put it on, but don't do it, even if you're tempted, because if you have a filter on there and that lens tries to push itself out through the filter, you could damage the motors, damage your camera. So you don't want to do that. What you have to do is buy this little adapter from Fuji, or you can find it from third parties online. This is the JJC version, and that screws on to the front nice and easily. It makes the camera a little longer, gives you this lens hood. The lens hood does come off though, and this little adapter has the threads for the 49mm filter. So what you can do is just screw that onto there, and now you are ready to shoot in the rain. And I have shot in the rain with this setup and it works well. Although if you do go from an air-conditioned apartment to a humid, rainy day outside, expect this to fog up pretty bad, which is what happened to me. So yeah, that works pretty good. And of course, you can put the lens hood back on with the filter. And the filter I prefer to use with this camera is a Pro Mist 1/2. And if you want to pick up one of these, they are linked in the description below. They are affiliate links, so if you buy one, it doesn't cost you anything, but it does give a couple cents to the channel, and definitely appreciate that. And the thing I love about the Tiffen Pro Mist is it adds some like glare and haze around light sources, and it just makes everything look more like a vintage lens. And couple that with the Fujifilm simulations, and yeah, it's rock and roll, baby. It looks really, really good. And of course, you can also buy step-up rings. So if you have filters for, let's say, 77mm or 82mm or whatever for your Canon lenses, and you want to put them on here, you can with the step-up rings. Although I will mention one thing. So if you do decide to step up from 49 to 77, that's what it will look like. And of course the flash is right there, and you will block the flash. I remember first time I tried it, I had this weird shadow over my subject. I was like, what's going on? Why is it not working? Duh. Yeah, so you're gonna block your own flash with that, but you can use your larger filters if you wish, which is definitely a positive. All right, and one downside to using the filter to make your Fuji waterproof is the fact that the lens cap that comes with your Fuji no longer works. So you're probably gonna have to get a little lens cap specifically for your filter. And the last thing I'm gonna touch on here is right on the corner here, you could almost miss it, is a Q button, and that's for your quick menu. So can we actually see? There we go. So you have access to all these things right here with the Q button, and then you can quickly just change your settings on the fly, which is definitely appreciated. There's something really retro and nostalgic about using this camera, and it's really, once you get to know it, it's really a pleasure to use. You know, especially if you go for full manual mode, you dial in your aperture, you get your shutter speed, you get your ISO, your exposure comp, and click, click, click. And of course, you can set these buttons here to like for exposure compensation or ISO or whatever as well. So it's pretty cool. Okay, so Canon photographer reviews Fuji X-V100, and this is more of like just my first impressions and first thoughts of this camera, and I just wanted to give it to you because if you're a Canon shooter and you're thinking about picking up a Fuji, especially this X100V, this is the video for you. And I really kind of wish that Canon had something like this in their lineup. They have, I don't know, they don't have anything like this. This is pretty cool and it's fun to use. And you know, I shoot with an R5 and an R, and my R5 is the moneymaker when there's money involved and the client's involved, you know, pulling out the massive lenses and pulling out the R5. That's what we're filming on right here. And, you know, we're working with it to make money. But if I want to go out and just have fun and just take some photos and not have to worry about all this expensive gear, I love this camera. And also, like, I gotta say that the EOS R itself is a fun walk around camera that you can take around everywhere. Obviously a little bit bigger, but it's also a really fun camera to use. I don't know why, but the R is more fun than the R5. Can't say why, but this is definitely the most fun of them all. And I'm thinking of perhaps even, because I've been really impressed with the Fuji photos and the look and the feel, I'm thinking about picking up an X-T4. If you want to see me test out an X-T4, let me know in the comments down below, and maybe I'll pick one up and test it out, because I feel like this camera's been fun, but after 8 months, I feel like I've kind of like, all right, I'm tired of the 35mm all the time. Maybe if I get an X-T4, I can get some lenses and stuff, but obviously that's not going to be as compact. So that's just something to think about. And the other thing is too, that there's talk about Fuji releasing a new sensor. So perhaps there will be an X-T5 or something like that. So anyway, just thoughts on my head. So this video is now over. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed that. And there will be more videos about the X100V. I want to talk about the leaf shutter and the flash and how to use that in daylight, because that is a really unique feature that you really only find in super expensive cameras. So Canon cameras don't even have leaf shutters. So that's pretty cool. And we're going to experiment with that. And I'm going to show you some cool things you can do with that as well. So with that being said, thanks for watching. Peace out. I will see you guys in another video. And one more thing, if you're still watching this, it means that you are a true fan and you enjoy my content. And if you enjoy my content, I set up a Facebook group specifically for subscribers to this YouTube channel. So if you want to join that Facebook group, we can chat, interact. It'll be a little more fun and a little more intimate than just me talking to you on YouTube. We can kind of have a conversation. So that'll be linked down below if you want to check that out. All right. See you in the next video.